Today I'm going to show you how to solve percentage problems. I'm assuming you already know the basics of percentages, so it's really the difficult problems you're struggling to solve. So let's start with the main formula you need to know. So this formula here is a list-based regression. You can practically solve any difficult percentage problem using this formula here. Now how this formula works can be better explained through solving problems. So for now, it's gonna have no meaning for you. Before we start, make sure to check out the links in the description. I have a free community you can join where you can ask me any question. And I also have a paid tutoring program. You can check it out if you want. If you watch this far, just subscribe already. It costs you nothing and it only costs you a click, but it helps me out a lot. So let's start with the first problem. The positive number a is 230% of the number b, and a is 60% of the number c. If c is p% of b, which of the following is the closest to the value of p? And here you have four choices. Now to apply this formula here, we're going to move on to Desmos. Let's first type in the formula. So you're going to have a list here and then a list on the other side. And now all you have to do now is just reread the problem. And you're going to see that on one side of the list, you can write A, and C, because you can see here that A is 230% of B and A is 60% of C, and then C is P% of B. And then on the other side, you're going to write 230% of B, then 60% of C. Then you're going to write P% of B. It's very simple, and Desmos gives you the answer, which is P is equal to 383. So the correct answer here in this case is actually going to be D. Now on to the next problem. 37% of the items in a box are green. Of those, 37% are also rectangular. Of the green rectangular items, 42% are also metal. Which of the following is closest to the percentage of the items in the box that are not rectangular green items? And you're going to see here that you have four choices. It's going to be the same as the last problem, but here you're going to have to designate your own variables. So for green items, you're going to write G, for rectangular ones R, and for metal ones M. As for non-rectangular green metal items, you're going to use N. And now on the other side of the list, we're going to write 37% of I. We're going to designate all the items in the box as I. And we're going to write next 37% of G. Then we're going to write 42% of R. Then we're going to write N, which is 100 minus M. So in this case, the amount of non-rectangular green metal items is 100 minus the amount of green rectangular metal items, which is in this case M. So for this problem, we're going to have to assign a value to I. And to do this, you're going to write on a new line, I is equal to 100. So you're going to give it the value of 100 to represent 100% or the total set of items in this case, which is I is equal to 100, I is equal to 100%. Okay, so moving on to the next problem. This is going to be the same as the past two problems, however, it's going to be more so practice than a new question type. So let's solve this quickly before we move on to a different question type. The weight of a sample A is 468% of the weight of sample B, and the weight of sample A is 0.78% of the weight of sample C. If the weight of sample C is P% of the weight of sample B, what is the value of P? So first, let's write A, and C. We're going to follow the same pattern as every single problem we solved so far. Now on the other side, you're going to write 468% of B and then 0.78% of C. And then we're going to write P% of B. And here you get the answer, which is P is equal to 60,000. And here you can verify the answer, which is 60,000. Okay, on to the next problem. The number A is 70% less than the positive number B. The number C is 60% greater than A. The number C is how many times B? Okay, now this problem is going to be different than the rest, but you're still going to be applying the same formula. So here you're still going to type in A, C, and C like usual on the left side of the regression. However, on the right side, you're going to think, okay, A is 70% less than B, so that means A must be equal to B minus 70% of B. And then C is 60% greater than A, so C is equal to A plus 60% of A. And then they're asking you C is how many times B, so you're going to write B multiplied by B. And you're going to get the answer here, which is P is equal to 0.48. And you can see here that the answer is indeed 0.48. Now on to the final problem. The positive number A is 2241% of the sum of the positive numbers B and C, and B is 83% of C. What percent of B is A? Same formula like all the previous problems, but you're gonna have to pay attention to the wording of this problem, and you'll see why. So here you're gonna write A, B, and A. Then on the other side, you're gonna write 2241% of B plus C. Then you're gonna write 83% of C. Then you're gonna write P divided by 100 multiplied by B. And then we're going to get the answer, which is P is equal to 4,941%. So the answer here is D. And you can verify the answer here. So you have to pay attention in this case. This is why the wording of the problem matters, because here you have a slight variation in what the question is asking. So instead of asking us how many times uh, is let's say x to y, they're asking us what percent of b is a, so you have to get the percentage instead of a number. So you have to pay attention to small details like that. So let's go over some important notes. All of these problems follow the same formula or method of solving. What's important here is that the wording of the problem matters a lot in this case. If you miss one slight difference or variation in how the problem is worded, you might actually get the question wrong. So you have to pay really good attention to how the problem is worded. But they really essentially all have the same formula or method of solving. So all you have to do is just pay attention to how the problem is worded. If you've reached the end of this video, just subscribe already, costs you nothing. Also don't forget to like it as well, doesn't cost you anything and it helps me out a lot. If you haven't already, make sure to join the free community. Also, check out my paid tutoring program. It's honestly your best chance at scoring more than 1500 on the SAT. So make sure to check them out.